and he suggested CBD. And at that time, I'm in Delhi, and there was absolutely, I didn't even know something like this existed. But advertising and marketing of the product has been the biggest challenge for us. But primarily, what really worked for us, and I'm saying this very proudly, is that the product that we've built is extremely good in quality. And our primary source of education and marketing has been Instagram. There's been many moments where I questioned my decision, but I never ever once regretted it. Purpose will, override passion by miles. So just keep at it, perseverance, thick skin, and strong brand promise.
Hello and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast, where we share hot tips on how to do life and business without losing your mind. I'm your host, Savita Nanjappa, entrepreneur, high-achieving 9-to-5er turned transformational success coach, helping you create a wildly successful business. Come hang out with me and other fabulous humans like you every week for stories and chats packed with a healthy dose of tips, resources, how-tos, and real talk. Side effects may include a happier and more confident you with each passing day.
Hi, and welcome back to the Success with Savita podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Richa Jaggi, who's the co-founder and chief marketing officer of the wellness brand Aushadh. Aushadh is a South Delhi-based cannabis and wellness startup with a vision to revolutionize the wellness space in India while providing profound and long-term physical and mental health and wellness benefits to their customers. Aushadh's products are intensively lab-tested and certified in the United States and are licensed under the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. Join me as I talk to Richa Jaggi about building Aushadh and also about how full-spectrum CBD products are leading the way in management of stress, anxiety, and chronic pain relief. Let's get started. Hi, Richa. Welcome to the Success with Savita podcast. I am very excited to have you on the podcast because I've been following Aushadh for a while now, and it's not just like in the last 3 months, but I've been following for a while. In fact, I have a personal Instagram account as well. And I am very interested in CBD and the whole, I'm deeply involved in wellness for myself. So I'm very excited to talk to you and hear about how you built this product. So welcome to the show. And very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Savita. And I'm so excited to know that you've been a customer and been following our journey. So I would like to know more and would like to, connect and get some feedback also after our call.
Of course. So let's start right at the beginning, as always, the journey of Aushadh. What made you start Aushadh? By the way, I love the name. And what made you start this? What is the story behind starting this brand?
Sure. So actually, it's a purpose-driven organization, and we say that very proudly is because there's a very strong purpose attached to it. And the story actually starts before the inception of Aushadh, which is back in 2019. So I had a pet by the name of Champ, and he was a black Labrador. And around 2019, he was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of perianal cancer. And already, we were in talks with our vet, and he had already gotten a round of surgery done, and we thought he was cancer-free, but it came back. And of course, at his age, the doctor did not recommend any invasive surgery again or anything else like that. So it was pretty much just, management of his pain and making sure, like his last days are comfortable. And he suggested CBD. And at that time, I'm in Delhi, and there was absolutely, I didn't even know something like this existed, I'll be very honest. I had heard of it, but the fact that, it could be given to pets, that it was so therapeutic. Of course, I had, I travel quite extensively, so I had heard of it, but the fact that it is that miraculous as a medicine, I had no idea. And I went everywhere, from Bombay to Delhi, everywhere I could not find a good CBD source, trusted, which was standardized, clinically tested. And obviously, I'm giving it to a, cancer-stricken dog, my pet. So then, luckily, a friend of mine was traveling to Netherlands at the time. And there, the market is extremely evolved in Amsterdam. So he got back a small tincture for pet CBD, which was for pets. And I had started administering that to Jam. And I saw that small ray of hope where there was a slight comfort and a little relief. Obviously, it's not like he would completely, become okay. And he was absolutely bedridden because his hind limbs had given up. So, so I could see that he was in a lot of pain, but he was finally sleeping. He had given up eating. So he was eating again. But unfortunately, we lost him. He passed away on the 3rd of November, 2019. But that particular memory and that thing stayed with me that I have to do something in this space for sure. And I've had a corporate career spanning around like 10 and a half years. And when Cham passed away, I was the marketing head at Times Internet. And I had completed almost 4 years there. And then, of course, the pandemic had started, right? And so my co-founder, Shubham, is a friend of mine, and he was moving to the US to start a business because he had studied there. And, we just spoke about it, and he's like, why don't we just start this together? And I said, yeah. So we just kind of combined forces, and then we started Osher. And that's the story. And the silver lining to this story is that the final pet product that we launched actually has the picture of Champ on it, like the caricature drawing. So it's almost like a dedication to him. And and we do like whatever, in whichever way possible we can, we do, we help NGOs and we try to spread awareness and knowledge, because a lot of people are not even aware that it could help pets so much. So yeah, that is the story.
That's a beautiful story. And I have a black lab who's a rescue as well. And recently he's been having some growth on his leg. So I can totally relate. I would do anything to find a product that would help the pet. And also for us as well. So you started out, and at this time, did you get to like understand what is the marketplace for Aushad? Okay, what happened next? You decided to launch. What did you launch, and how did you come up with your first product?
So, as the story goes, we are obviously extremely excited about, launching something new in the market. And we thought that, we're just going to kill it. But of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So before even launching the product and getting to the market response and the market, it's actually the process of getting to making the product available in the market, because I'm literally there where there is shortage of material. There is no packaging material. China imports have stopped, and basically we're in the middle of a crisis situation per se for startups, especially who don't have the funds to, because everything was at a premium, like 3x, 4x, 5x prices, because paper was in shortage, packaging material. Like if I show you my mood board, post our call, I'll share that. The vision of packaging I had looked super sexy and, out there. And I want to try this because obviously, as a marketing person, you want your product to look cut above the rest. Nothing was available. Nothing. I went and in the middle of the pandemic, literally, I'm wearing 3 masks because I'm so scared for my life and my parents' life, obviously, because that time it's so fresh and new, right? Yeah. And my dad is a heart patient, mom's a BP patient, but ab kaam to karna hai. So we went to Sadar Bazaar, which is one of the most overpopulated, congested area of Delhi. Literally, per square foot, there are like, I don't know how many people, right? And in that crowd, we are there going to, shop after shop, vendor after vendor for bottles, packaging materials, seeing what can happen. So finally, we kind of found a middle ground where I was happy and satisfied. And that's how we cracked our packaging. But again, I finally finished all our outer box packaging. But then I thought, okay, this is not looking as premium as I wanted to look. And, a very close friend of ours also recommended that we change it. And therefore, it went to a complete overhaul. So literally a month before the launch, we did the full packaging again. So what you see it as now, which is the packaging which you see on our handles and pages, was supposed to be yellow, red, green. I'm sure it doesn't even resonate now with a lot of people, but we decided to go the minimalistic route to keep it less nonsense and keep it more about the premiumness of the product and the seriousness of the product. And I was completely trying to get international at first, right? That it needs to look cool, it needs to connect with the audience and all of that. But then we did a full overhaul. So when we finally launched the product, our first month was just friends and family minded, obviously, like with any startup, like that, chalo, let's just give you some encouragement. Yeah. But the real struggle started post that, because we were not allowed anywhere to advertise, from Google to, Facebook. And I'll touch more upon this, in the course of our conversation. But advertising and marketing of the product has been the biggest challenge for us. And that's what we've sort of cracked, over the 3 years of Osher. And of course, we are still, doing trial and error, but that's been our biggest learning. And so we were doing a lot of pop-ups, on ground. There are a lot of these small artisan markets that happen. So we were doing that a lot in Delhi. And then we have a lot of aggregator websites also, like CBD Store, It's Hemp, etc., where we started placing our products. But primarily, what really worked for us, and I'm saying this very proudly, is that the product that we've built is extremely good in quality, and that is something that we very pretty much pride ourselves on. And so the customer kept coming back, and the word of mouth spread quite a bit. And our primary source of education and marketing has been Instagram. And that, like our posts started getting shared, people were seeing our products there. And then, of course, once our ads started working, that's when we got majority of the footfall happening.
Okay, I have heard, and I hear you when you're sharing this, because I've heard a lot about how, marketing is hard for products because there's so many regulations around it. What were your early learnings? So the first product was a pet product, or it was
No, it was for humans. The pet product actually launched in September, October.
My question to you is, what were your early learnings, therefore, when you went to market? And did it make you think that, do I want to do this? Did it make you question if you want to go ahead with this?
Oh, that is a very interesting question, and a major flashback for me, because imagine leaving an extremely cushy corporate job where you're earning, great money, and to leave all of that and start from scratch, zero, literally put in your own money, actually. And so, of course, there have been many, many moments where I questioned my decision, but I never ever once regretted it. And that is a conversation I've had with a lot of these talks that I, go for, a lot of college students who come up to me and ask me. I was like, your only thing has to be purpose. Purpose will, override passion by miles, because you could be passionate about a lot of things, but if you feel you have that purpose, then you will still be at it. And my purpose was that I wanted to do this. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help and heal, people and pets across. So I knew that the larger cause was a lot bigger than my initial discomfort, as an organization. And so, yeah, there's been many times we've had negative sales, for, on certain days and weeks. And, we've questioned what to do, next. So, yeah, the advertising part has been the most challenging part in this whole thing. And believe me, in all of my experience, obviously, I've never experienced advertising for the CBD sector per se, but I come from the background of lifestyle, very strong lifestyle and beauty sector. So, because I was handling marketing for Lakme.
Okay.
So, I kind of used the same ideology of making, the product promise, talking about the benefits of the product. So, my whole marketing strategy for Osher has always been to keep the product benefit at the forefront versus, and of course, the product is premium, packaging, everything. So we have to tick all the boxes. There is no way around it. You can't give the customer a substandard product and just say that, deal with it. In terms of even its physicality, everything needs to be, above, expectation, I would say, because the price of the product is still on a premium at this point in India.
Yeah.
Having said that, the strategy was always to keep the product's promise first, the product's benefit at first. And we tried to, marry the benefit and the product promise and what it, like the premiumness of it together, and then kind of go to audience with it. And education has been one of the major and the strongest point of it, because I see the only gap here is every one of us have, I would say almost 80% of us will say that, we do feel a certain amount of anxiousness. We do feel, that we don't sleep as well as we should or could. And, and I'm right now just talking very superficial lifestyle related stuff, right? But then there is a deeper issue of chronic pain, joint pain, lifestyle related issues. There is, of course, people are dealing with more serious ailments like IBS, epilepsy, Parkinson's, even cancer, right? But just at the level one, most of us are dealing with this, issue. So if you know that there is a product out there which is absolutely plant-based, side effect free, and so healing, why wouldn't you want to use it? So the only gap between these two was the knowledge and the education. A lot of stigma was obviously surrounding cannabis, which has been one of our biggest, I wouldn't say challenges, but our education in that area has been the most to destigmatize it, to tell that it's legal. It's an Ayurvedic medicine. We have an Ayurvedic license from Ayush. So spreading that awareness has been very important for us. And once we actually bridged that gap, it was seamless. Like, and I'm saying this confidently, that I know it for a fact that tomorrow, even when someone who's not aware that cannabis is legal becomes aware that it's legal, and they get to know the benefits of it, would immediately want to, if not adopt it, at least give it a try. I would tell you our customers range from obviously 18 above, because it's a prescription-based medicine. But from 18 to up to like even 90-year-old customers come up, down to our office in Delhi, who are not so digitally savvy, and their children perhaps sitting abroad, happened upon our website, and they've told their parents to just come down. So we have such patients as well coming in.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head for products which are innovative, which are new, which come out like this, which has never been done before, right? And bringing CBD products or cannabis or THC, as you say, is something new. I think education is the most important pillar that you have to have, because you're going to have your early adopters, but education is needed for more and more people to come in and try the product. That's one. The second is when you said passion. I mean, your purpose, your business is purpose-driven. Your goal is purpose-driven. So when you have that, it's always going to be easier to navigate the challenges. I'm not saying the challenge becomes easy, but I'm saying at least you know why you're doing this, versus when you're doing a business just for money. So I think great points you made over there. My next question for you is that now, since COVID, actually, I'm observing the marketplace. A lot of cannabis products are out there for health reasons, for sleep, for pain relief, for pets, all of this. Yeah. And has it made, so I would say there's competition. I don't know if it's in the same segment, but there are products out there. So this is an industry, it's a new industry. Has it therefore made it easier? And therefore there's more awareness because there are other players as well, and you're not the only one. Has it also helped in terms of the government working with you in, coming out with regulations which are easier for you to do business with? Talk to us about that.
Actually, competition is there, and it's increasing, day in, day out. Yeah. But I actually think that's a good thing for the industry, because the more players come in, the faster we grow, the faster the knowledge, because everyone will put in effort behind education, right? And that's the compounding effect of an industry at large, right? So first, when we started, there were like less than a handful of players, and now so many more have come up, right? And which is a good thing. And now we even have an association, we are associated with certain associations which are hemp related, which are also trying to kind of push the cause of cannabis and medical cannabis ahead. So I would say, and I take it in a very positive sense, that it's actually a good thing. And I actually want more and more entrepreneurs in this space, even innovation, even if not cannabis, medical cannabis. In hemp sector as well, you can see so much growth has happened. And at the government level, I definitely think it has been slightly challenging at start because of all the advertising, restrictions that we have, etc. But I would say it's been more than comfortable for us as a business to function. It's never been an issue or any obstacles we faced from the government. They've been very, very supportive. They want to help, our industry and sector as much as we can. Of course, there are certain bodies which are involved, because we are still dealing with a scheduled drug at the end of the day. So there are certain bodies which are keeping things in check, which is, of course, with good reason. But again, the only gap is knowledge and education, as I said, right? So once that percolates down, even at the government sector, which is what we are trying to do, very, very strongly. And when that happens, I'm sure we could hopefully reach a point, in the coming years where medical cannabis will be like OTC and hopefully maybe prescription free as well.
Yeah. So you shared that, Instagram has been really helpful for the way the business has grown. So tell me, because normally a lot of new business owners, either they're doing a lot of Instagram or they do it a little bit, then if they don't have early success, they give up. So tell us how social media, what methodologies have really helped you put the word out there about Aushad, and what has been your best marketing, I would say, strategy or marketing pathway that has worked for Aushad? If you can share as much as you can share, of course. Not to give away all your secrets.
I will not give my secret sauce, but I can give a little bit of it for sure.
Yeah.
However, apart from social media, like as I said, right, Instagram is the end place where we are leading the customer to our website for the purchase, right, for the conversion. But there are a lot of other factors which support that case. And as I said, right, there's a lot of advertising issues. A lot of times, 80% of our times, the ads get rejected, accounts get blocked. I've lost so many accounts, doing the trial and error because they would get shut down. Ad accounts because of Facebook meta policies, right? So in parallel, we work very strongly on our SEO, and that is something which I think has kept things afloat, and that's been very important for us. Coming to Instagram, what's worked for us the most, and I'll tell you, I want to bust some myth here, and it's controversial, but something that did not work for us at all has been influencer marketing. And everyone swears by it, but I think and I have my reasoning for it also, right? Because I tend to want to get into why is something not working before just, okay, numbers are not matching, we'll get into the next. Now, the thing is that there was a lot of credibility for influencers back in the day. In fact, I myself dabbled with, food blogging 8 years ago, so I also used to have an active blog, but then I stopped. But at that time, there was a novelty attached to a common person who has a specialty, who is exploring and suggesting and advising and sharing their recommendations with a larger audience. So it's almost like a recommendation from a friend who you think is an expert in a certain area.
Yeah.
But as we went along and as people started monetizing it, and it's great, I think as an industry, it is so great. And I'm seeing all, young entrepreneurs who are like such great, bloggers, influencers doing such great work. But, the monetization of it has become to a level where one day you're talking about, Kerastase, the next day you're talking about Sunsilk. So like which is the better shampoo, you don't know, because everybody is talking about something else the other day. So the novelty and the credibility of influencers in this space especially, and I'm dealing in a very, very serious medical space, right? So I do not want to make it frivolous at all, because it's a more serious product category. Having said that, what did work for me in the influencer space were actually expert influencers. So instead of going to generic influencers of fashion, beauty, lifestyle, etc., even mother bloggers, etc., all of that, who I did connect with, and actually we were fortunate enough to actually have inquiries from some of our customers who happened to be, expert influencers. So like fitness experts, nutritionists, health experts. These people, when they did brand advocacy for us, by the way, all pro bono, because obviously we're a startup, we can't pay at this point. That has worked very well for us, and that's been our secret to somewhat getting more credibility in our customer eyes, for sure.
Like what you hear so far?
Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. Stay tuned as we take a quick break, and we'll see you on the other side of the show. So I was going through your website. I was reading through the FAQs. And of course, I love the question where you say, are you going to get high? And, you answer that saying, no, you're not going to get high. Very relevant. But, most of your products are prescription products, right? What have you seen with the medical profession? Have they, adopted it? Are they recommending it? Or is that, again, another, roadblock that you're facing?
So actually, this is a very important question, and I'll tell you the backstory to it. At first, of course, we have an Ayurvedic license, right? So an Ayurvedic doctor right off the bat can prescribe the product. But it was actually the Ayurvedic doctors who were not aware about this product at the level, the way, the West world is. So there was a lot of education and knowledge that we shared, and we did a lot of training of doctors also at Osher. And I'm sure a lot of other companies must have also done the same. So at first, I wouldn't say there was apprehension, but, it wasn't complete adoption immediately, but it's grown substantially. Ironically, it's the MDs, the allopathic doctors who've always been aware of it and were very open to trying it out. But the only missing piece of the puzzle is actual clinical trials, which of course happened, in America and Europe at large, but in India, and as a startup, of course, clinical trials take a lot of money, right? So we do have reports of our own patients and our own, case studies that we have, which we, share with other doctors and, share the improvement the patients have had. And doctors are very, very open to it. But yes, starting from 2021 to now 2023, there's been a huge improvement, from physiotherapists to pain specialists to MDs, recommending the product. Yes, of course, we've not even scratched the surface when it comes to, all of the medical doctors kind of adopting the product and prescribing it.
Of course.
We have the big pharma to fight with there, right?
Yeah.
However, our biggest champions have been our own customers, who actually come and speak to their own doctors and tell them that, I tried this, it improved my condition. In fact, we had a patient, and we have a very good cancer specialist with us on our website, onboarded. And he was working with a patient, a lady who was in her 60s, and she had a very severe case of fibromyalgia.
Okay.
And we have a product which is called Kamasul, which is, medical cannabis in a capsule, because we have oil in a format and capsule. And as Indians, I think it's easier for us to just take pills than, oils perhaps. And that's the reason why we launched our capsules, which have done really well in the market.
Okay.
And anyways, the doctor prescribed her the product, and the doctor told us that, within a month of her consumption, she came back and she actually specially came to just thank him because she felt so relieved, almost 70% relief of all her pain. And someone who deals with fibromyalgia will know that it's literally a pain of the full entire nervous system of the body, where, even a slight movement or walking one step ahead pains. So for her to get relieved of that pain is a very big deal. So we have such cases, and, doctors, patients coming back to their own, doctors and giving good feedback. That's worked with us. But now we're planning and, definitely spreading out more in the medical fraternity and having more conversation with doctors.
Okay, great. I mean, that's an amazing story for somebody to have such relief, right? And this is what we hear about. This is what a lot of people are sharing online as well after trying CBD. Now, my question for you is, let's assume that I'm an entrepreneur who's launching maybe a CBD, maybe a new alternative therapy type of product. What would your advice be to someone who's just starting out in terms of how they kind of take this to market, how they educate and market? What would your advice be? If you have like one or two tips that you'd like to share for a newbie entrepreneur who's starting out and in a space where it's new, I mean, you have to educate. What is your advice to them?
So again, I'll go back to first, only launch something which you are every marketing guru or, entrepreneur will tell you that look at the gap in the market, first find the problem and then fix the problem with the solution. Of course, that is a no-brainer. We need to have that. But let's assume you've cracked that. You know what is required in the market. You know what could be perhaps as your, primary research that could be well taken in the market, and you've done all of that groundwork. To start, honestly, the first thing I would say is to have a very, very, very strong, brand promise, which is there. Work on your marketing and your branding. Whether it's a premium product or a mass level product or whatever it is, you need to have something which is attractive to the customer and clutter breaking. Whether you do that via your communication, whether you do that via your packaging, whether you do that via whatever, disruptive methodology that you adopt, there is a way to kind of, as an entrepreneur, the way to make impact long term is that your customer keeps coming back. The only way you will become, relevant in the customer eyes is if you're giving them something of value. So need to make sure what you've created in the market or you're coming to the market with has value. So you need to work really, really strongly on that. And that's what we've done even at our end, right? Even if it's alternative wellness or anything else, the brand promise needs to be so strong at the product level. A lot of times we sometimes work too much on perfecting the product and not the communication. And sometimes we work too much on the communication and not the product. It needs to be both. I will not say either or, because both are extremely intrinsically related to each other and important. With a great marketing campaign, which kind of is disruptive, you will get your first 1,000 customers, but they need to come back for you to be sustainable, right? And on the flip side, if you've made a great product, the customer's not going to come in until they don't know about you. You need to attract the eyeballs. So it's a very delicate mix of both, but I would recommend that both is important. And for a first-time entrepreneur, just right off the bat, thick skin. Be so thick-skinned that nothing can faze you, because you will face so many failures, so many disappointments, so many heartbreaks along the way of your business journey, where you'll be like, ye maine kya hi kiya, maine kyun kiya hai, kya ho raha hai? You'll have that a moment where, you're just sitting looking at your life and you'll be like, did I do a mistake? But that's literally that dark tunnel, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I assure you there is. So just keep at it. Perseverance, thick skin, and strong brand promise.
Yeah, I think great advice, especially the part about the thick skin, because I mean, whether it's alternative therapy, whether it's coaching, whether it's, a tech product, everywhere you go through the same, pain. You're going to have rejection. You're going to have things that don't work. You're going to have things that don't take off the way you expect it to. The one that you least expect will probably be the one that works.
Exactly.
So it's a very interesting journey. Yeah. My next question for you is, do you have like a community around CBD? Like, there are different community platforms where people get together, but did you have to do this as well to build a community? Do you have communities that exist? What's happening in that space, if it does exist? Is it there?
Very interesting question. Actually, as we speak, what we are trying to build via Aushadh is a community. But we've not done any tangible community building apart from what we have on our social media.
Mm-hmm.
But we have kind of interacted with and done cross-promotion with a lot of communities, right?
Totally.
So, of course, there are a lot of people who are cannabis enthusiasts in India, right? And many of them end up becoming customers, who, already are strong kind of loyalists of this particular ingredient, and who want to now, come and experience this product at a wellness level and at a medicinal level, and that community has been our, a very big torchbearer for us. And, all of the stuff that we do, the education that we do, our main primary objective with community building on our platforms has been via, our Instagram has been via, spreading education and very value-added education, So in terms of, for instance, all of October was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we did like a series of posts around how to do the cells checkup, and stuff like that. Directly, nothing which is pushing the product, but a lot of it in our community is about spreading awareness and knowledge about health and wellness.
Yeah.
And that, therefore, I would say that almost 70 to 80% of our base and our community on social media is someone who's very serious about their health and wellness, and at least, if not taking active steps about it, is actively thinking about it, which is step one for me. Right? Step one is not what you do. Step one is first you need to think about it. So our community is very actively engaged. And with our blogs and all the information we do, I, on the ground, do a lot of talks with colleges, a lot of college students. And that's the community building which I'm trying to do and build, like a lot of college ambassador programs and all of that, where, we can spread the word and, I can interact with students myself who are passionate about becoming entrepreneurs, maybe some point of time, or want to know more about this industry or this product.
Yeah.
So these are the certain steps we're taking, but we definitely would like to become more active in a community sense and much bigger as we go along.
The reason I asked was because nowadays, especially, you see, you have the vegan community, you have different, like you have the yoga groups, you have the travel groups. So I would suspect that obviously there is a community around this. It may be correlated in the sense it would be tied up with similar wellness, which are parallelly and supplementary to this industry. Like there may be a yoga group which is also into, wants to try CBD. And of course, there are people like me who are watching or observing and then thinking about which one they should try first, but educating ourselves.
Just taking from your yoga point, is that we just, day before, completed an event with a wellness community called Vitality Hours, and we had an event with them where we were one of the partners at the event. And it was a full day wellness event where they were doing Kundalini yoga, they were doing some self-care rituals, and there was a full moon meditation night, or, it was very, very interesting and invigorating. And, there were like around 80 people there. And these were high intent customers for us.
Yeah.
And the community was all about wellness. So it was a complete, brand fit. So from that end also, we do such kind of collaborations and work in terms.
Yeah, I think, it's all helpful, right? Very interesting to know. My next question, as we're kind of heading towards the end of the interview, but so what's next at Aushadh? What's next for you? If you can briefly share.
A lot of fun things, slightly early to share, but I definitely would like to tell that we are entering, the sector of mushroom wellness.
Okay.
And, we recently launched a product which has cordyceps with it, called Kamashroom. And, as we know that, apart from, of course, medical cannabis being extremely, a therapeutic medicine, even mushroom comes with it a lot of healing properties, right? And so we're trying to marry both of them. And we are, thinking a lot on those lines on, new product formats. We've recently launched, just as of a month back, launched a excellent muscle recovery gel. So we're entering topical market now because most of our products were edible. So now we have balm, gels, roll-ons, which are doing well in the market. So pushing those out. And that's what we're doing.
Interesting. Okay, looking forward to that. I do have a question on investors. I know it's early days, but do you see investor interest happening in this space?
100%. We already have, interest from, we keep having, somewhat calls trying to understand what's happening in the market. Right now, we are keeping our eyes and ears open, but we would like to be bootstrapped, for the time being. But we're definitely, very open to conversations and having conversations across with all sort of investors. And yes, there is definitely a good interest in the market, I would say. So this is a sector which is pretty much, I'm seeing, which will grow phenomenally.
Yeah, I think this is like the next, it's like a sunrise industry, right? It's the next thing that's coming up. And finally, let's talk about you, bring it back to you. I know that you said purpose is what keeps you going. But what else? I mean, what makes you wake up even on the bad days? Besides, of course, the purpose, is there something else that inspires you to keep going? Or how do you keep going? Like, maybe you had a bad day. How do you bring yourself back and keep going? Do you have some tips?
Of course. I have to. So there is obviously a very politically correct answer to this also.
course.
I'm not politically correct ever.
Good to
There,
know.
there is a strong inner voice in me, which is like, I have this inner critic, and which most women do, I feel, where we think that we need to be perfect to first even try to attempt something, we procrastinate, we do so many things. And I'm just doing this to shut my own inner critic down every day, that, because I thought I don't have it in me to be an entrepreneur. And I had to prove that wrong. I don't have it in me to, build and scale my, firm. Prove that wrong. I don't have it in me on low days to pick myself back up and still do it. If I'm facing a personal crisis, will I still be able to do justice at work? And if I'm facing a work crisis, can I do justice on a personal front? All of these things are all in the air in those dynamics, and you have to keep, kind of silencing your inner critic. And, what I have noticed is that we care a lot about silencing the haters, whatever we want to call it, that you have to prove something to the world. But quite honestly, my journey as just purely on the basis of a woman would be that, the minute you make your inner self confident, and you shut down your inner critic by challenging every doubt that comes inside it, ki, can I do it? Am I good enough? That will actually be the most satisfying feeling in the world. So what keeps me going every day, and every day I fail, by the way, every day I want to do my Pilates also, I want to do meditation also, I want to read 2 chapters in a book also, then come to work and then kill it and then eat healthy. I am failing at least on 50% of those things, but I again try again, because that is life, right? And I have to keep doing it, because at the end of the day, I have to live with me, right? And the difference that I'm making in people's lives, or even if there is one girl somewhere who is getting inspired by my story, that, like life can beat you down, but you still have to get up, like if I start from my story of my career when I started up in Bombay, and I've dealt with some really amazing mentors, but I've also at the other end of the spectrum been with some really horrific bosses, who were who I actually questioned humanity in them, so all of those things, when I've seen a mixture of all of it, and a girl sitting in that, in that desk job, again, having the similar kind of crisis that I did. And she's thinking that, is there a way out? There is. Just please keep at it. And, all entrepreneurs, young boys and girls who want to get into this, never stop upskilling. I know I didn't have the luxury at that time of having such great resources online. We have Coursera, we have so many, certifications and everything available online. So one thing that keeps me going is that I keep going to colleges to kind of upskill myself, for executive programs, leadership programs, and courses, which helps me not only to kind of buff up my knowledge, but also network and get more inspiration from other people around me. Because when you're working in a silo of your own industry, your growth is very limited to that. So, everyone just keep upskilling, keep working, keep learning more things. Even with someone you think is of no value to you, perhaps you feel that, okay, what can someone from, for instance, finance department teach me if I'm in the marketing department? Tomorrow you could be an entrepreneur. My biggest setback has been my maths, which has been horrible, right? I should have paid more attention to the finance department, I feel. But that's about it. Anyone could be a teacher. And, keep your ears and eyes open. And that's what even keeps me going, to kind of prove my inner critic wrong every day, and to just keep getting back up.
I love how you're sharing this. And I feel like what comes through so much is your authenticity. You're not like just here for the time being. We're hoping that you'll get invested, then sell out and go. You only, like, you're so authentic. And I want to try CBT because I feel like, okay, Richa's not selling me some BS product, there could be something to this. And I think that's so important for a founder. And being able to articulate that, yeah, I also have all these failures. No day is similar. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. But before I let you go, here are a couple of things. It has one, it's very Karan Johar style rapid fire, but I'm just gonna, I'm gonna ask you like a couple of things, and I want you to say what comes to mind first. If there's one product everybody must try at Orchard, which one should they go for? Starting. They just
Cool.
Which one?
Kamasul. It's our capsule, which is, we have
Alright.
Kamasul Plus and a Kamasul. So this is the starting part of it. 100%. You should try it
Start
out.
with that. Okay. If I'm, what comes to mind when I say the word sleep?
Oh, so many things. I don't even know where to say. When I think of sleep, I feel a sense of peace come within me because it's such a luxury now. So the minute when you say sleep, I automatically think of peace because, a good sleep is actually one of the biggest luxuries we have today and automatically gives you a sense of serenity and peace.
Okay. A favorite ritual to start your day. For you, that you want to start your day with.
Honestly, I don't want to lie. My favorite ritual used to be Instagram. It still is. First thing I open in the morning, but it is so bad for your mental health. Please don't listen to me. That is not a good ritual to follow at all. So now I'm trying to first do some chanting or some meditation or if not, nothing else, just drink water. Like anything, but first 15 minutes, look at my phone. That's what I'm trying. Again, I'm a work in progress. So while it's my favorite ritual, it's not a healthy ritual. So don't do that.
Okay. What's your favorite, like when you want to take a break from work, from business, what's the thing that you like to do?
Oh, travel, 100%. The world has been my biggest teacher. I do a lot of solo travels. I in fact did one just in September. Then I ended up meeting my friend there also, and then we combined the trip. But I travel like a lot, and that has been my biggest stress reliever, stress buster. Like it's amazing. There's so much to learn when you meet people from other cultures, and that's been my biggest.
Okay. And finally, what comes to mind when I say health? Besides health as well. You're not allowed to say that. But besides that, what comes to mind when I say health? Oh, health and wellness.
Oh, when I say, I would say it is priority. Immediately, with the minute you say health, I would say priority because literally in my 30s, I can tell you, I took so many things for granted in my 20s, which are coming back and biting me in the bum, from my posture to how often I'm active, to how often, my screen time is, everything. We take so many things for granted, which you start seeing slowly it come up, but it's not difficult and it's not going to be a problem in your 30s. But when that first sign comes, because I speak to so many patients now, that first sign was there in your 30s, but you didn't take it seriously and it flared out in your 40s and 50s, right? So take your health and your wellness as your priority. It's not a luxury anymore. It's actually priority.
All right. With that, any last message that you want to share with our audience? Of course, we are going to be sharing all the links and for people to connect, to buy. The website link also will be shared. Is there anything else you'd like to leave as a message to our audience before I let you go?
Sure. Thank you so much, firstly, for having me, and to all the listeners and everyone who's tuning in. Please feel free to, drop me a message anytime. Of course, Savita will link everything. But if you have any doubts or any curiosity around this sector where you want to learn more or you want to, build your own particular startup, or just as a consumer, you want to understand more, feel free to drop me a message. I'm very happy, very well. In fact, our customer care is done by the founders itself between me and Shiva. Oh yeah, we will directly answer your question.
That's a first, and that's such a hard-hitting connection to customers. I think that's brilliant. A lot of people, I don't do that enough, and I feel like listening to your customer is most important, especially in the early days.
Yeah, I don't know how long we can sustain it, and we do interimly have some help, but 90% of the times, in fact, the Instagram is completely looked out by me, and even the customer care, the number that we have, we kind of split it between the both of us, and then we have one more teammate, but literally no message goes unread from us, from the founders, and we make sure that every query is answered. Yeah.
So that's your USP for sure. But
yeah, I got it out of me.
Thank you so much for giving me this time. You've been so generous with your time. And of course, if there's any way that we all can support you, we will do so. Thank you for your time. And we hope to stay connected and bring you back maybe in a little while for part 2 and to see how Aushadh has grown as we go on.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richa. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode and you want more, you can go to the show notes on my website, which is successwithsavita.com/podcast. podcast. If you like what you've heard so far, I would be grateful to you if you could leave me a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, and share with a friend who may find this useful. You can also follow me on my Instagram at Success with Savita and DM me any questions you may have, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Until the next episode, believe in yourself and all the best to your success.